Okay, so we will begin seated comfortably. If you have a wall to lean back against, it's always nice, or something to sit up on. And we'll start here by, well, I'll offer if you want to do it's called a mudra. It's a shape you can make with your hands. This one's called, I think it's called Viloma, and I'm trying to find my notes if I don't say it wrong. Doo-doo-doo. Jala. It's Jala Mudra. Mudra is how you pronounce it. So it's pinky and thumb together. And then your other fingers are extended and you can put it on your knees. And the symbolism here is like water or liquid. So instead of sitting if you want to sort of rock left and right or in a circle, and you can close your eyes or you can look down. And just imagine like you're in water, you're swaying around. And from here, there's a breath that you can try if you like. And it's called ocean breath. And because it's supposed to kind of sound like the ocean when you breathe. So it's you breathe in the back of your throat. Some people describe it as a slight snore. But when you inhale, you kind of inhale into the back of your throat and then exhale from there as well. It's almost like like when you try to fog up a window, I guess, but your mouth is closed. So that's sort of the action you're doing, but your mouth is closed. So if that makes sense, you can give that a try for a few breaths. So you can continue breathing like that and slowly move onto your back. So if you're sitting on something, you can come down onto the back with your knees bent. Hmm. And continue breathing like that as we start some pelvic tilts. Kind of a perfect one to start with if we're thinking about water or that sort of gentle rocking sensation like you might feel if you were in a boat. And so we press the low back down onto the ground and then we press the pelvis back down onto the ground, rocking back and forth. You might also feel your feet getting involved, pulling your feet one direction, the other. Continuing, if you want, that ocean breath in the back of the throat. And if you want to turn those pelvic tilts into more of circles, you could try that, or either circles or figure eights. So it's like you can imagine your pelvis is like a bowl, and you're kind of like rocking the bottom of the bowl around on the surface of the mat. And then the other direction of the circle or the figure eights, like you're turning the bottom of the bowl around in a different direction. Imagine there's liquid in the bowl sloshing around as you circle. Nice. Okay, well, slow down that movement until it becomes stillness. And then we'll start by turning onto, let's say, the left side. We'll start with the left side. And if you have your block, you can put the block under your head. You can also prop yourself up on your elbow. And we're going to be on our side with our knees bent. With your top arm, so your right arm, you can place it kind of on the back of your hip or like, yeah, the top part. And what we're trying to do here is not let the hips open up, but see if we can keep the hips squared and facing forward. So a little bit of a push. Okay, from there, we'll start with opening the knee and closing the knee. So this is option one. Option two would be to lift your heels and do the same thing. So when you lift your heels, you have the ability to move in a bigger range of motion, most likely. And if your heels are on the ground, then the range of motion of the lift will probably be much smaller, but both are good. So you can decide which one feels more appropriate for you. And we're opening the knee, closing the knee, continuing to kind of push with your hand just to keep those hips square forward so that they're not opening up when you lift the knee up to the ceiling. Nice. And then we'll lower back down, take a moment. Sometimes it's nice to take that hand and kind of like circle your hips around or even do a little massage by doing a gentle hitting of the area. Okay. From there, let's extend the top leg and then we'll do a lift and lower. So it doesn't have to be high at all. We're just lifting and lowering. And again, trying to keep the pelvis square to the side, so not opening up when you lift your leg. Nice. And then we'll do one more and lower back down. And the same thing if you want to do like a little circle with your hips or a little massage before we move on to the next. Oops. Oh, no. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do, hey, get off the computer, kitty, is do the same lift with the top leg, but this time angle your heel up to the sky and your toes down on towards the floor. Get off. Sorry, like this. Nice. Okay, and then we'll lower that down. So just interesting to notice how that's different when you have your foot straight and then when you have your toes facing down. So take a moment, maybe give your hip a little massage. Okay, and now we're going to move into some swings with that top leg. So you can kind of swing the foot behind you and then bring it up, and your knee comes in towards the chest. You extend the leg behind you and then bring the knee up towards the chest. So we're working into the hip. We've got hip flexion and extension. If you want to include your arm, you could extend the top arm up as you extend the bottom leg, or I mean, the leg out, and then bring your elbow and your knee together. Inhaling out, exhaling together. Let's do two more. And last one. Great. And then we'll pause on that side. Or if you want, you can come onto your back and do a little shake out of that right leg that was doing all that work. And then we'll prepare for the other side. So you can just roll over. I'm going to turn around so we can see each other. Block can be under your head, or you can support yourself with your arm or pillow. Okay. And now we shall begin. So take that top arm and place it on the hip or the low back and kind of push it forward. Knees are bent, and then either your heels stay on the ground as you lift the top knee up and down, or your heels come up off the ground as you open and close your knees. Taking breaks whenever we need them. Okay, and then as you're ready, coming on down, and then using that top arm to circle the hip around or do a little gentle, loving massage with your fist. Okay, from here, we'll extend the top leg and lift and lower, lift and lower. Notice if you're lifting so high that your hip kind of your bottom hip kind of comes down and you can feel your waist moving. That's if that's happening, then it's too high. We just want to lift and lower and keep the rest of the body as still as possible. Okay, let's lower back down, do a little circle with your hip or a little massage. Okay, and then last one is to extend the leg and point the toes down so you're internally rotating your hip as you lift and lower. And just do a few of these. I always find them quite a bit more intense. I wonder how they feel for you. Okay, and then we'll lower that down. Last time doing a little massage for your hips. Okay, nice. So let's come back onto the back. And then if you have a block, you're going to take your block. If you don't have a block, I think it'll be helpful to have like a book or like a thick book or a cushion because we're going to place it underneath the pelvis. So something that you can place underneath the pelvis that helps you to lift off of the ground. Okay, once we've got that, we're going to lift the knees off of the ground. So then you have to adjust, lift the knees and the feet, I should say, off of the ground. And then once you've got your legs in the air, we're going to do a little swivel. So what you're kind of trying to do is lift your hip up to the right armpit and then up to the left armpit. So it's not like the knees are moving over to the left and the right, although they will move, but it's more of a twisting action. I will show it from a different angle. So I'm swiveling I can see my feet moving left while my knees move right, and it's being driven by my hips lifting up. So it's kind of like we're doing a side bend, but we're doing it on the ground. And we'll continue that, but now with the knees a bit wider. So doing the same swivel, but just opening up the knees. And so again, we're like, now we're trying to kind of lift the right knee up towards the right armpit, left knee up towards the left armpit. And you're probably feeling some action in your waist and in your obliques. We've got the core coming online. Nice. And then let's lower the feet back down. And to compensate for that, we can do some, as I twist around, do some windshield wipers with the knees. So knocking one knee in and the other knee in, keeping your feet wide, maybe wider than the mat. Okay, next one we're going to try is almost the same thing, but we're going to see if we can have our feet wider. So it's kind of like you're coming into happy baby or you're doing like a straddle upside down, but your legs don't need to be straight. The knees can be bent, and we'll try to do the same swiveling action. And for whatever reason this one isn't working for you, you can come back to the knees together, or you can even come back with your knees on the ground and do those windshield wipers again if feet up in the air isn't working. Okay, so wherever your legs are, let's all take a break by putting the feet back down on the ground. And then from here, you can keep your knees bent, or if you want, you can extend the legs out. Okay. All right. So here we can keep the block underneath you or move it to the side, but we're going to lift up into more of a bridge. So this isn't a bridge where we're trying to like puff out our chest. We're just trying to lift our hips off of the block a little bit. And then if you like from here, you can lift your toes and just stay on your heels. So that might kick on some different muscles. And then from there, we'll bring our hips back down, either onto the block or back onto the mat. And do those windshield wiper knees again. Okay, and then we'll do one more version. For this one, see if you can walk your feet a little bit farther away. And then either with flat feet or on your heels, we're going to lift up again and feel how that changes. So you can bring your feet as far away from you as they can go while keeping your knees bent, and then lift up and see how that might bring it more into the hamstrings or even the calves. Nice. Okay, we're going to lower back down from there, and then you can circle the knees around with your hands. So just bringing the knees up towards the chest and holding the knees or holding behind the knees and circling around, doing a little lower back massage. Okay. We're going to move now on to hands and knees. So however you want to get there, you can roll to one side. Oh, and then come onto hands and knees. Okay, great. Let's start with some cat cows. So bringing the rounded back up towards the ceiling and then bringing the chest and the belly down towards the mat and reverse it up and down. Okay, let's try to find a place right in between those two. So not with the back arch and not with it sinking down to the ground. So right in the middle, it can help to really push the floor away from you with your palms. And then let's lift the left leg up. So the knees bent, and it's like you're trying to kick the foot up to the ceiling. And then from here, we'll do just little lifts. So they can be very small. And again, we're trying to activate the hamstrings and the glutes. If being on your hands and knees like this isn't working, you could come down to your elbows, or you could put your blocks underneath your elbows as well, like this. Or you could even have your hands higher on a chair as you move. So pick your poison. We're just doing small lifts, bringing your knee down at any point that you would like to pause, and then up again. Okay, and let's pause, bringing the knee down, and you can bring the knees wide and come into a child's pose for a moment, if that feels nice. And then coming on up, we'll do the other leg. So bringing the other knee off of the ground, keeping it bent, and then lifting the heel up. And then lowering it back down, and we'll take a pause again, maybe coming back into child's pose for a moment, or you could sit up. Okay. From here, coming back onto hands and knees or elbows on blocks or whatever you've chosen. And then this time, we'll come into like that fire hydrant, sort of like the dog in the fire hydrant. So we lift the knee up to the side, and then you can stay there, just lifting and lowering the knee up to the side. Or if you want, you can lift the knee up to the side and then swivel it around and then bring the foot to the same position as it was before. So it's a lift out to the side and then kicking the heel up again, and then out to the side and then up. So two different ways we can do it, lifting and lowering, or we can lift and then circle around, lift and circle. Okay. And then the next time you bring your knee down, it can be helpful to have your hands up on blocks. So then bring that knee, that left knee, over to the right side. So you're crossing your knees in front of each other like this. So your knees are crossed and your feet are going to opposite sides of the mat. And then from there, you can sort of swivel your hips around just to get a bit of a stretch. So you can kind of like come back and come forward, or you can just sort of circle your hips around. You can see I have my hands up on blocks, which gives me a bit more space to move. They can be on any height that works for you. If crossing your knees like this doesn't feel accessible, another version would be this figure four on your back. It's the same sort of stretch. Okay. Wherever you are, we're going to uncross our knees and go for the other side. So now bringing the right leg up into that fire hydrant. So either lifting and lowering or lifting and then circling the leg around and back down. Okay. And after you've done a couple more, we'll do that same thing where we take the knee and we cross it over to the other side, and then the feet go to opposite ends of your mat, and then you circle the hips around. You can go back and forth. Or even without crossing your knees, you can kind of come back into a child's pose and forward, which is also a good stretch for the outer hips. So both can work. Alrighty. So now from here, we'll keep the blocks nearby, but we can take our hands off of them for now. And then we're going to come up into a standing. So option two, come into downward facing dog and make your way up, or just stand up in any way that works for you. And then we'll all meet in standing. Okay. All right. So let's keep your blocks or whatever your objects are in front of you. And then we'll bring the right foot forward, just a small step, left foot back. And then we'll do a little bit of a circling movement with the arms. So we're going to bend the knees, circle the arms up and back down. And what can feel nice is to lift the front toes off of the ground, keep that leg straight, and then bend the back knee. So you're getting a bit of a stretch on the back of the right straight leg. So I'm bending down. And then as I press my heel into the ground, it's a nice stretch for the back of the leg. Okay, beautiful. And then the next time you bring your arms down, you can put them onto your blocks again, and then take that right leg and swing it behind you so that you're in a version of Warrior Three. If you don't have blocks, you can have your hands on a chair or on the wall, and you can lift your back leg to whatever height feels appropriate for you. We'll pause here for a moment. And then we'll bring our right leg down, swing it through, step forward in between your blocks, and then come down onto your knees. So you're in this lunging position. Okay. From here, we're going to turn. So we're going to turn over to the left. If you have blocks, you can bring them with you. And then your back leg is going to turn as well. So you're in this side lunge. Okay, if you have a block or a cushion, you can put it on your right knee at any height, And then place your elbow there. Yes. And now we're going to press the elbow into the block. And that's going to create that same side bending action that we did earlier on the ground. So we're compressing the right side here. Continue to press into the elbow. And if you want, you can have your other hand behind your head. Nice. And then we can leave the block or bring the block down and do the same thing, but without the block. So just bending over to the side and trying to create that compression on the right side, but now with just pretending the block is there. Nice. Okay. Let's come on up to center. Beautiful. And then we'll turn back to the right side. You can bring your blocks with you. And we'll come back to standing. So it could be just to stand up like this, or you could go into downward facing dog and then stand up. But then we'll meet in standing once more. So we did a whole sequence on one side. Now we're going to do the other side. So this time your left foot comes forward. And then we do that same thing where if you want, you can lift the toes and sort of bend the back knee, so the right knee, and then swing the arms up and around. And then every time you come down, maybe you're getting a bit of a stretch in the back of the left leg now. If this feels too balancy at the moment, you don't have to lift the heel. You don't have to lift the toes. Okay, let's do one more big circle. Whee! And then we'll bring the hands down onto the block again, or the blocks again, or whatever your surface is. We'll lift this front leg back into warrior three again. So hands can be on wall, they can be on a chair, couch, on the ground even. Holding in warrior three, and then swinging the left leg again up to the front, up towards your hands so that you can come down into a lunge. So now the right knee's back, left foot's forward. Okay. And then we're going to turn to the right. I'm just going to demo and then I'll turn around. So now I've turned to the right and I've got my left knee out to the side here. Nice. We can take our block or our cushion, put it on the knee, and then take that left elbow now and do a little bit of a squeeze. You can figure out which height works best for you, but it's nice to have the block here rather than just your leg for a little bit of solid feedback, or even a cushion would work. And then if you want to add on, you can also place your other hand behind your head. So you've got your elbows wide. Nice. Continuing to breathe. Now we're compressing the left side waist. Okay, and then option to let go of the block and continue that same action and see if you can get that sort of compression feeling, the little bit of action in your obliques, even without the block. Okay, nice. So from here, we're going to turn back to the left so that we're in that lunge once more. And then we'll come up. And if you want, again, you can come into downward facing dog and then stand up or just stand up from your lunge. We'll meet in standing. All right. How's everyone? Is everyone okay? Everyone working those hips. Okay. From here, let's do a circle of the arms up and down. We'll do three of these. Up One more. Down. Yay. And then we're going to fold all the way down. Whee. You can pause in this forward fold for a moment, or if you're ready to come down, you can come onto your knees, and then we'll come all the way onto the back. So it can be as nice and slow as you want. So we'll finish off with a few stretches. If you want to keep your block um, underneath your pelvis or your cushion, again, that might help facilitate these stretches a little bit. So with the block under the pelvis, we'll again lift the knees and just roll the hips around. Roll the knees around. If this doesn't feel comfortable on the block, then a cushion can be really nice, a pillow. Okay, and we'll bring the knees to center and keep the right knee bent and extend the left knee out. You're pulling your right knee towards you and extending your left leg out. And this can also be done with nothing underneath your pelvis as well. Just having something underneath gives you a bit more space to open, but you listen to your body. Let's slowly start to bring the left knee in and extend the right leg out. And we'll do the same thing, just holding there, letting the left knee come towards the chest as the right leg extends. Okay, let's start to bring both feet onto the ground so that you can lift your pelvis up and off of the block. And then we'll just wrap up here by doing those pelvic tilts once more. So, kind of starting or ending how we began, back to that rocking sensation. And we did a lot of different sort of strength mobility moves for the hips and the backside and the sideways. And all of that is to facilitate softening of the front of the hips and the psoas in particular. Psoas muscle, which wraps around from the base of your spine, wraps around the hip, and then attaches at the front of the hip. So by working all those other muscles can help to loosen up this one, potentially make it feel more fluid. You can circle the pelvis around now. Maybe coming back to that ocean breath. It's called ujjayi breath in Sanskrit. Again, it's as if you're trying to fog up a window, but you're doing it with closed lips. You can feel it in the back of your throat. And maybe it kind of sounds like the ocean. If you feel like continuing to rock around, you can keep moving, or else you can still your body. We'll end here in class for today. So taking your time to come out or just staying here for as long as you like.